Guys, welcome to the fifth live edition of the Spoken Truth podcast. I go by the name of Danny,
I'm Chaz.
and today we're going to be breaking down the Dallas Mavericks versus the Phoenix Suns. I believe this is game 5. That's going to be happening tonight in just a couple of minutes here. But first, we have a game going on right now with the 76ers and the Miami Heat, who are playing at this very moment. Chaz, what do you see so far in that game that gives you the confidence that this series, is kind of swinging back towards Miami favor? Because we've seen the last two games that Philadelphia has taken over in those two games, and that's with the presence of Joel Embiid. So now that Miami is seeing Philadelphia with Joel Embiid, what are they doing differently that got them out to, I think it's a 15-point lead right now going into the fourth?
Yeah, right now it's actually up to 22. They're up 7-0 in this fourth quarter already, so they blew it up to 88-66. But it seems like Eric Spoelstra really shifted. At some point, it looked like maybe in game 3 or early game 4, where they started fronting him a lot more. They've definitely been doing that a lot tonight. Even if it's Bam that's staying on him, he's fronting Embiid, a lot more than he was in that third game. And especially if they get a switch onto a guard, that guard is automatically fronting Embiid. So I think giving him that separate look is kind of throwing them a little bit out of rhythm tonight. Obviously, we can talk about how great Harden looked the other night in that 31-point performance. He hasn't been at that level tonight, which, I think a lot of people expected. That's not going to be an every night type of thing. And then also, Max Strus has been outstanding this game. I think he's up to 19 or 22 points. He's got like 4 or 5 3-pointers. So, we know when the Heat get, that level of play from the role players, it really helps them take that next step. I mean, Bam just got another and one, so it's up to 90-66. So I think this game is over.
Hello? Did it come back in? Hold on.
But I don't know. It's tough to tell because obviously with a series like this, the Heat win game 5, they're going to go up 3-2. But then you shift right back to Philadelphia, and you just don't know how much it's going to translate. So it's very easy to see that I feel like Philadelphia has just as good of a chance to win this series. It's just going to be tough now that they have to win back-to-back games. But I don't think this win means much, going forward. I still think Philadelphia has a chance to win this series. They just have to get back to the way that they were playing in game 3 and game 4. I mean, they hit 9 more 3-pointers than the Heat did in both those games. So when they're hitting threes like that, they're really tough to beat, and they just haven't been able to shoot like that in Miami tonight.
Yeah, sorry, folks. I just got a call from my dad. We're trying to fix the internet situation right here, trying to get the games on from my point of view. But knowing what you just said here, and knowing that, 9 times out of 10, that was kind of a one-off for James Harden. He can't perform at that level more as consistently as he used to. Do you see that this series still favors Miami?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like Philadelphia still has a realistic shot to win this series, but it's just going to be so much more difficult that you now have no more room for error. Tonight was a night that I felt like they really needed to come out with that same level of intensity as they did in that game 3 and game 4 too. But they just didn't in that first half. I mean, they showed that Doc Rivers was getting into his team. It seemed like even Embiid was just kind of thrown out of rhythm. So, I mean, they still have a shot to win it. It's just going to be tough. I mean, I don't think this game means much though. Like, I mean, they're down by 25, but you just put it behind you and you got to win game 6.
Talk about the effect that Joel Embiid has on this team, because we've seen it in game 4, then we've seen it in game 3, the kind of effect that he has had on this team ever since he's returned. Talk to our viewers about what is it about Joel Embiid? I know he stirs the pot for this Philadelphia team, but what is it about his presence that just gives Philadelphia a chance in this series?
Oh, his level. I mean, the way he was playing in those last 2 games, it was just enormous. You could just see the drastic difference it was from game 1 and game 2 to 3 and 4. And I mean, he's so impactful on both ends of the floor. I mean, he takes Philadelphia and he makes them get probably 15, 20 more quality shots per game than they get without him. And then obviously on the opposite end, we saw Bam was getting anything he wanted in those first couple games, and that was completely taken away in game 3 and game 4 with Embiid's rim protection. So, I mean, we know that he's one of the 5 best players in the whole league. So when he comes back, like, it's obviously going to be a drastic difference. But I mean, it was pretty impressive. What did you see in those game 3 and game 4, like, as well as how he played off of Harden?
See, I don't think particularly well, and this is no offense to him, because you would expect him not to be able to perform at a high level as soon as he returned back from his injury. But I think it's the way that he affected his team, not being as much of a dominant scorer as we know he can be, but doing everything else for that team. It's not just about the scoring with him that gets his team, that he just makes plays, and he just put his players, his teammates in a position for them to be successful. So with him in game 3, it wasn't about the scoring. It was just about his presence. I think he makes Harden better. I think he makes, the role players better, when they're playing, away. I think that he just makes the team better. He's kind of the engine of that team, and they go as far as he go. We know he's injury prone, and we know that, he has a short shelf life. But when he's on the court, that makes the difference between Philadelphia getting swept and Philadelphia being able to win the series. Because if he wasn't playing, there's no doubt in my mind that Miami would have swept, the Philadelphia 76ers. But him just being on the court alone, gives them life. And I actually think they have a great chance of actually winning the series based on his presence alone. So I have the game up now. I don't know what my parents did with the internet, but it's up now. So shout out to my parents.
That's good. We got Tunde in here too. How's it going, man?
Oh man, another day in paradise. Apparently, guys, this is news to me, but I guess Joel Embiid isn't playing well because he didn't win the MVP award.
I know, right? Man. That's very unfortunate. We're going to get into Nikola Jokic being back-to-back MVPs, a little later. But Joel Embiid, like I was kind of saying earlier, Joel Embiid's presence is one of the reasons why they have a chance to win this series. I don't know if I'm getting an echo.
I'm getting it too.
You getting an echo too?
Mm-hmm.
Is it coming from?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that was so much better. What were you doing, Chaz?
I'm not sure. I might have had the sound on the YouTube also up, so it might have been.
Oh, nah. I'm just.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I just playing with
Fucking
you.
up these nice people's streaming experience. God damn.
I know we got a lot of turbulence early in this episode.
Yeah, my dad called me, and I'm like, I thought I put it on mute, and I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm doing the show. I got to call you back. And I was like, oh, it's that. I forgot to mute myself.
I mean,
it's a blowout though. We can get all this stuff out early.
It wouldn't be the worst. It wouldn't be the worst. Hot mic slash unexpected experience we've had on the show.
I know you're not going there.
I'm not saying anything. I won't say anything. I won't name names or people or give specifics, but we all know what I'm talking about.
Well, because the internet, for some reason, before the show started, like it went down, and I'm trying to turn it on TNT, and I'm like, why is it not working? And I literally restarted the entire system 3 times. Nothing's working. So I'm calling my mother and I'm like, hey, is something wrong with like the internet connection in Ohio? And she's like, I don't know, let's just restart it. So like they restarted it, and he called me like during the show, and I forgot to mute it. And I'm like, and I'm doing the show right now. I'll call you right back. He said, is it up? I said, I don't know. Let me check real quick. As Chaz is like talking about Philadelphia, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to mute myself. But it's all good.
That's a live show for you.
That's a live show for you. Absolutely.
Live show for you.
Absolutely. So
the issue is you trying to do anything from the state of Ohio. That's really where you went wrong. That's just me.
I still have ties to Ohio, That's where I'm from.
I know it's a goddamn show. There's a billboard out here that says, and it's crazy because for those who don't know, I'm originally from Michigan, but I live in the Bay Area now. And there's a billboard in downtown San Francisco that has like this. It's like sponsored by the state of Ohio. I don't know why it is, but it says Ohio is for leaders, and it has like the outline of the state of Ohio on
So
it.
true.
Which, like, first of all, why? No, not at all. Second of all, why the fuck is that out here? I don't.
So true.
Oh
Many
no.
questions, but anyway.
Look. Ohio literally dominate Michigan in every single aspect of sports, and you know everything almost essentially. So especially football. But we're not going to get into we're not going to get into
That's
Michigan.
crazy. I remember November 27th, 2021 very well, and I could have sworn that's not what happened.
That was a one-off. That's something that only happens every 2 centuries or every 2 decades. That's something that doesn't happen often. Us losing to Michigan.
Which team leads the all-time series?
We have to go back. Our parents weren't even born when that was going on.
That's fine. You just said it only happens every 2 centuries or 2 decades or whatever. I just want to be sure.
Our parents' didn't even, witness those. They were witnessing those games. Our parents' parents. So, what have you done for me lately? And I know they got that little,
got one at least
garbage victory.
What did happen lately? I just gave you guys props. You got that little garbage victory on us, but that's fine. It was more than just little or garbage. I mean, they won They made the college playoff and won the Big Ten off that win. Also, what happened the last time they played in basketball? I might have forgotten about that too.
We're going to have a lot to talk about in the summertime. When it's time for football season, but let's get back into the NBA of the swing of things right now. So let's smooth transition. The Boston Celtics tied things up with the Milwaukee Bucks last night, and a game that I don't want to say no one, but Al Horford, out of all people, led them with Jason Tatum, led them to that victory over Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now that the series is tied 2-2 and it's the best of 3, how do you guys now feel about your picks going into the series? Are you more encouraged or discouraged about you guys' picks?
I feel great. Boston should have won game 3. They didn't. They then came back and won game 4. I feel like all of the reasons why I picked Boston to win the series are things that we saw in game 4 and things that we saw playing out. They have a lot of different bodies to throw at Giannis. You already mentioned it. Al Horford was fantastic. He was really fantastic all game. But, Giannis dunked on him and stared him down. And you can literally, the camera literally panned to him, and you could see the moment that Al Horford took that personally. So
absolutely.
But in all seriousness, yeah, I feel good. I feel good with my pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Al Horford said something like in that moment, something switched at him. And you could obviously see it with 16 points in the fourth quarter. He was phenomenal, but we'll talk more about him later, obviously. But I feel I'm on the complete opposite way. Like, I'm definitely discouraged, watching the last, maybe 8 minutes of that game in the fourth quarter last night. I'm thinking it feels like Boston's going to win this series now. The last 2 fourth quarters, it seems like it's been very obvious how much the Bucks have missed Chris Middleton. They've been outscored by like almost 30 points in the last 2 fourth quarters. When things start to get bogged down and Tunde, like you're saying, they're sending multiple guys at Giannis, and Holiday is not shooting well. You really miss somebody like Middleton who can hit those type of big shots in the last, 6 minutes of the game, where you just need a few big shots to really keep you in it. And I kind of feel like, Danny, like you said, it's a 3-game series now. Going back to Boston, I think the Celtics probably win game 5. Last year we saw Milwaukee against Brooklyn win game 6 and game 7. So maybe they could do something similar to that. But to me, it feels like Boston's going to win this series now. I'm still picking with my Milwaukee pick. And I still think Giannis, has a chance to lead them to that. But it's just going to be so much more difficult because I feel like Boston's been the better team. And they've, through 4 games, even though it's 2-2, I feel like it's been pretty clear that they have been slightly better.
I feel personally that it should be 3-1 in favor of Boston. That's what it seems like from my vantage point through the first 4 games. And for Milwaukee, it's so fascinating to me that we're talking about Giannis, who, to to a lot of people and to me is universally recognized right now as the best player in the world. And to see that Boston seems like they found something. And what I mean by that is now, from my vantage point, and I'm looking at the Celtics and they're like, oh, I can do that to him. Or we could play this style of basketball against him and it works. I think for the first two games in this series, they were kind of trying to play the game of let's play how we played against Kevin Durant, and realizing Giannis liked it, the physicality that Kevin Durant doesn't. So now I feel like the last 2 games they have switched the way that they guard Giannis, and they guard him more one-on-one at times. And they still, build the wall, but they let Giannis shoot those fall away and those uncontested 3-point shots because they're going to live by that. I see less and less of Boston doubling Giannis, tripling Giannis, and having one person guard him. And I think that's from them learning that no matter how great Giannis is, his skill set is not Kevin Durant's. And we all know that he lacks skill sets of being able to shoot perimeter shots and having the ball handling skills. I mean, don't get me wrong, he has great ball handling skills for a big man. But I think I'm not saying he's getting exposed. What I'm saying is we're seeing that when he's playing against an elite defensive team, how they're able to guard him and kind of show the lack of skill set he has when he's facing a team like Boston. I think the reason why they got away with it against Brooklyn is because the brand of basketball that Milwaukee plays catered into the Brooklyn Nets being a finesse basketball team, and they didn't want no parts of that. So when you have a team that plays like that, like Boston, you have to find another way to beat them. And I know that Milwaukee's tied 2-2. It just feels like Boston has figured out how to beat them at their brand of basketball. And without Chris Middleton, it's really Giannis got the ball in his hand, in clutch situations. And he has to make the right plays. And he has to take over the game. And he has to make the right decisions. He has to make the right pass. I just feel like Milwaukee has become one-dimensional. It's Giannis or bust. And you cannot beat Boston when it's Giannis or bust. And if they're not hitting perimeter shots, if he doesn't have help from, Bobby, and he doesn't have help from the other players on the road, especially that this series is now a best of 3, there's no way they're going to beat Boston in a game 7 playing like they have played in this series.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you could see after that game 1, I think Ime Udoka thought, it was a mistake to double team him so much, Giannis, in that game 1. And I mean, they still had a chance to pull it out, but, we haven't seen him being double teamed very much at all since then. Like you're saying, they're funneling the ball out of his hands more. So guys like Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis are having to beat them. Some nights they have good games like they did in game 1. Other nights they struggle like they did last night. So that's kind of a game-to-game basis. You'd obviously rather have those guys shooting the ball than Giannis, driving and attacking. But I think a lot of this falls on Holiday too. I want to hear your guys' opinion on his play. He really struggled in that game 1, even though they won last night. He was 5 of 22. There was several big possessions down the stretch where he had the ball, and he was kind of taking somewhat forced shots. There's shots that he can hit, but it's a lot of empty possessions at the end of the game.
I just don't think. I'm sorry, Tunde, if you wanted to say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't think. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm hating on Milwaukee because I picked this team to go to the finals. I just feel like that this team, it's something about this team. I know they won a championship last year, but it doesn't seem like a great team. It seemed like they have one superstar, megastar player, and then they just have a bunch of pieces. It doesn't feel like they should be this good. Um, and
And they're missing a pretty big key.
and they're missing a pretty big piece in Middleton and Holiday, but I wouldn't classify that as a big three. So I mean, I guess I'm kind of impressed that they're able to win a championship last year, and I'm more of looking at it right now as I'm comparing them to Phoenix and I'm comparing them to Golden State, and knowing we're going to get into those Western Conference teams later. Just seeing how they could potentially match up with those two teams, I'm going to be honest with you. From a person that picked the Warriors to win the championship, I'm more afraid of Boston than Milwaukee. Like I'm more afraid of losing to Boston than to Milwaukee. I mean, if I'm going to State, I'd rather play Milwaukee anytime, any day. But Boston has the length, they have the physicality, they have the offense, they have the defense, they have everything that Golden State has. So it's literally a chess match. I think Milwaukee has so many flaws to a point where you don't have Middleton there. So now you can really tell because Giannis can't cover it up. So it's to a point where last year, okay, Drew Holiday was amazing. Middleton was amazing. Giannis was amazing. And they beat, a Phoenix Sun teams that wasn't quite ready yet. But if we had the same rematch of, Phoenix and Milwaukee, I will have to go with Phoenix. Because I just feel like that there's something it's too many holes Milwaukee has. They have too many holes in their team to a point where I feel like great teams would expose those.
I mean, fair enough. Just two things to what you just said. I think if we got a Phoenix Milwaukee rematch, and to be clear, I don't think we're getting that. But if we do get a Phoenix Milwaukee rematch, I think we'll get the same result, which is that Milwaukee, like Phoenix doesn't have the personnel to guard Giannis, and that'll just kind of be that. But to your point about you made a point about the Warriors there. I think I would take the Bucks. I would take both of these teams that we're talking about now over the Warriors in a 7 game series. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that's where I'm at with it personally. All that being said, though, just kind of focusing on the series that we're on with Boston and Milwaukee. Been really, really impressed with what we've seen from Boston defensively. Of course, this is what they do. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Milwaukee's defense and specifically what they've been doing with Jason Tatum. Because I mean, we're seeing it. We saw a drop off this year from Milwaukee defensively. A lot of that had to do with Brook Lopez being out, and I mean, they look like they look like Milwaukee again. With Brook Lopez being back in the lineup. He's so good and so underrated. But it's been really interesting watching their plan with Jason Tatum. They have him scouted so well, all of the little tricks he likes to use in this game. I mean, we've seen Milwaukee do a really, really good job with handling him, whether it's, the rescreens he likes to run with Al Horford or what have you. But I think Boston went a long way towards solving a lot of those problems in game 4, in particular at the end of game 4. I think what we saw was a lot of sending the big away. They let Jason Tatum go one-on-one and just let Jason Tatum go one-on-one over people who couldn't guard him or stop him from getting to his spots and finishing. And in particular, when they did were trying to kind of game a matchup, they were clearly kind of going at George Hill, who is a very good defender, but is also like 6'3". So he's just too small for the job. I'm really interested in seeing what these closing lineups look like going forward for Milwaukee. Because I mean, and it's we know that any closing lineup that Milwaukee plays is going to involve Giannis. It's going to involve Drew Holiday. It's going to involve Brook Lopez at this point, and it's probably going to involve Bobby Portis as well. So then, who's that fifth guy that's going to be out there when it's winning time? I mean, because last year this was the 5-man lineup that they had, and then you'd put Chris Middleton in there, and they had that figured out. And Bobby Portis's emergence last year was so big for them because that was the fifth man in their closing lineups. Now being down Chris Middleton with this injury, they have to find another fifth man to close out these lineups. They have to find another guy to plug into these. And then you look at the roster and you kind of you can kind of pick holes in any candidate that they would have to do that job, right? If it's Pat Connaughton, you're gonna again complain about the size. George Hill, you're gonna complain about the size on Boston's wings because that's where they want the ball to go at the end of the game. Somebody like Grayson Allen, you're gonna complain about the on-ball decision making, which has been quite bad this series and just in general when he's not just shooting the ball. And also that he's small as well. And then you look down the line at Boston, and again, it's closing lineups with no defensive weaknesses. And then you start like, from my vantage point anyway, I just don't know how you can feel good about that if you are, a member of the Bucks or a member of that organization.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you for sure. And we saw Wes Matthews kind of give Tatum, he kind of made him struggle a little bit in that game 3. He played one of his worst games, I think, in this playoff stretch, but he didn't have that same luck last night. And you can't always count on those guys like Wes Matthews, like the guys that you mentioned. They're not always going to be there every single night, especially on the defensive end when you're talking about having to defend guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown and some of those other wings on the Celtics. It's just, I think it's too much of a task without Chris Middleton. I mean, maybe Giannis is up for it and he's going to be able to win 2 more games, but I don't know. Like I said earlier, it's definitely leaning towards Boston, and it feels like they're going to be able to close out this series.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I view the team is remaining in this playoffs is who can win games when they're not playing their best. And I've seen from Phoenix, play absolutely terrible and not be able to close out, winning, pulling out a game that they shouldn't win. I have yet to see Boston be able to do that in a situation when it's just not their night. They're just missing everything. They're just shooting, bricking, and be able to pull out a game where they're not playing up to par and be able to win that game. So to me, there's still a lot of unknowns about Boston that I'm quite not sure about. I absolutely trust them to win this series because I think the momentum has shifted to their favor. And I picked Milwaukee to, obviously represent the East in the finals. But there's still a lot of question marks, I feel like this Boston Celtics team has. Their identity is with defense, 100%. I don't think I have any questions about that. But when it comes to clutch time and possessions, when you're not playing your best, can Jason Tatum get it done? And we've seen him close out some games this playoffs. But that's when his team was relatively playing, decent or, great or well. But when your team is not clicking like that, I would like to see him in that situation of being able to close. So I still think the jury's out on the Eastern Conference. I'm not really sure. I think Miami is just Miami. I have no thoughts about. I have nothing to say about Miami.
Nothing.
I don't believe in Miami. Like I don't believe in that team. Yeah, I mean they make it to the finals. It would literally shock me. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that. I'm like, I won't see that coming, even though they were number one seed. I just think there's so many questions about the Eastern Conference, and that's the fun part about it is that it's kind of wide open. It's up for the taking. But we're going to touch on you know Boston and Milwaukee and Philadelphia a little later on. But right now, coming up in a couple minutes, we have the Suns and the Mavs. And over the weekend, the Mavs have, stolen 2 games from Phoenix. Although Phoenix hasn't played their best, this series is now, just like Boston and Milwaukee, is the best of 3. What are we seeing? Because at this point, it's a home series. So I feel like whoever has the home advantage, which is Phoenix, going to win this series. But now it seems like it's dead even, and now it's literally a toss 'em or pick 'em. Chas, I know that you had Phoenix winning this series, I believe. Has your mindset changed or wavered from that pick?
No, it hasn't changed, but I mean, there are some things that I thought Dallas really did, in game 3 and game 4 that gives them a realistic shot to win this series. A lot of those losses I thought, were on Chris Paul's poor play, and we can talk about that, especially, foul trouble all throughout game 4. He just seemed out of sorts in both of those games, really.
The refs have been outrageous the last week and a half. I mean,
But he had a couple of mistakes too where they were just unnecessary. They were things that we get on younger players about. And the one with 1 point, whatever seconds left before the half to pick up his 4th foul.
That's a coach. But that's a coach problem, me, because there's no reason Paul should have been in the game.
Yeah, but I mean, if he is, he's got to be able to help himself from committing that foul. And Luka just sold it. He got him. I mean, you move on. But it's more about, I feel like, what Dallas is doing on the offensive end. They're kind of making DeAndre Ayton look a lot like Rudy Gobert when they're stretching him out. Maxi Kleber is shooting I think almost 50% from 3. Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith are in the mid 40s, I believe. I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith had 8 3-pointers the other night. When those type of guys are shooting like that and Luka's doing his thing, they can beat Phoenix. And I mean, they're halfway there now. I feel like they have a shot to win it. It's just going to be tough, with game 5 tonight in Phoenix.
But that's been my kind of mindset about Ayton from the get-go. And I know we had this conversation almost 2 months ago when we were talking about Phoenix and Golden State. And I kept barking up, you kept telling me that Ayton is going to be the X factor. And I kept saying Ayton is not going to matter as much as you think when it comes to Golden State. So if we get that matchup, we're seeing what Dallas is doing to him. We're just going to imagine what Golden State's going to do when they have the firepower, because Dallas, their role players play great at home, but they tend not to show up on the road, and that has been their problem in this series. Luka not getting enough help, and although Luka has gotten severely exposed as a defensive liability, he still makes up for it on the offensive end. He needs help. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I just wanted to touch on that DeAndre Ayton point, because what you said is literally what I've been thinking for the last 2.5 months. And, that man deserves his money. He deserves, how much Phoenix want to give him. But when it comes down to it, they're going to spread him out. They're going to make him come away from the basket, and they're just going to take his lunch money. And that's what we're seeing with Dallas. Tunde, I would like to get your thoughts on, this series being tied up 2-2.
I mean, so my first thought was is Chris Paul good?
Yeah.
What you mean by that?
You saw games 3 and 4?
Injured or something?
Or something. I don't know. But
okay. Yeah.
Is Chris Paul good? Because that was bad.
Yeah.
This is just kind of immediately where my mind goes.
Uh-huh.
They're not gonna win this series if Chris Paul doesn't play well.
Do you still think they can win this series?
Phoenix?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But
do you think that though? That's what I'm saying. Do you think they are?
Do I think they will win the series?
Yes.
Oh, you're asking me to make a pick.
Yes.
I'm
Knowing
pretty
what we
sure.
know now, knowing that it's 2-2 split, knowing it's the best of three, like knowing that the momentum has shifted towards, Dallas, where do you honestly believe that this series lies? Who will win it?
Oh man. Um, See, it's tough because, and I'm going to do my normal thing and really talk this through here, so bear with me. Um, Dallas has figured a lot of stuff out. We all saw in game two, I think everybody saw it was just various forms of like the whoever offense on Luca, right? Um, and he was involved in every offensive action. They kept trying to get him involved in pick and roll, might mess up the coverage, get a clean look out of it. Um, Dallas did, and Luca did a great job defensively in games 3 and 4 with positioning and kind of just being where it needed to be. They dropped him a lot more in those pick and roll situations. And this is the benefit of being 6'8", is that you get more margin for error defensively when you are large. Um, and then offensively, Dallas has figured out a lot of stuff with just being able to get clean looks for guys like Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber. It's been a lot of pick and pop and various actions to get those guys the ball in their spots. And I've been really impressed with how when Luka went out, they found something with Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie, and the ball was moving around a lot, very egalitarian, and everybody kind of touched it a little bit more. And when Luka came back, they kind of went back to the heliocentric, like, all right, balls in Luka's hands all the time offense. And they've kind of been struggling to find the balance between the two. And I feel like in the last 2 games, they've landed on it. All that being said, I don't think the Monstars stole Chris Paul's talent. And I think that if you were making me pick right now, I would still pick Phoenix to win. It's really just because they get 2 of the next 3 games at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like if these were 3 neutral site games, I think I would pick Dallas.
Yeah. So to me, that call me crazy. I don't know if this is hot. I don't think this is how I take it off. To me, this is a must win for Phoenix. Like this game, I think game 5 is a must win for Phoenix.
No, not crazy at all. I mean, if they lose this one, they got to go back to Dallas for game 6.
Yeah, I don't think they beat Dallas 2 of the next 3 games. If I don't think they could beat Dallas back to back if they lose this game tonight. I just think that the way Dallas is playing, and everyone knows I'm not the biggest Luka Doncic fan, but the way he's been playing, despite the defense, I'm going to keep throwing that out there because it's just so major part of the game. It's literally half of the game of basketball.
I would argue. I know what this sounds like, but I would argue at the when you reach the level of offensive skill that Luka's at, and really just in general, it's not half the game.
He's a horrific 3-point shooter. Luka is like a 30% career 3-point shooter.
No. There's a difference between actually being a bad 3-point shooter or actually being a bad shooter.
All he takes as we sorry, I forgot to introduce this game right here because it started. But as we see, DeAndre Ayton just picked up, I think, his first foul. The game had just started between the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. Right now 0-0 at the start of the first quarter. Go ahead, Tunde.
Yeah, I'm not done arguing with you.
Yeah, I know. That's why I just had to introduce the game first. I know you wasn't.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between actually being a bad shooter and just having your shots be, shooting a certain percentage because you take a lot of difficult shots or because you shoot a lot of step backs.
Are they difficult or are they terrible shots?
No, they're not.
I don't think they're difficult shots. I think they're terrible shots that he shouldn't take. If he didn't take
what's the difference between that?
If he didn't take the terrible step back threes and he took his shots in rhythm, he would be a better 3-point shooter. Like, I mean,
all of that sounds nice about taking shots in rhythm, but like when you're the primary shot creator on your team, you don't get to take shots in rhythm. Maxi Kleber and like Dorian Finney-Smith get to shoot high 30% from three because all of their three-point attempts, especially for like Dorian Finney-Smith, they're catch and shoots. Somebody else created that shot for you. You don't get to take like you don't have to take or create the more difficult ones. That's what somebody like Luka or somebody like James Harden or somebody like LeBron James, has to do. Which is why, like James Harden has shot, somewhere mid-30s from the three-point line for a significant chunk of his career. It's not because James Harden isn't, and one of the best, hasn't been one of the best.
Well, he isn't anymore. He isn't anymore.
I'm talking conceptually. I'm not really talking about current James Harden. But like Houston James Harden.
Yeah.
Was a great three-point shooter who was shooting like 35% from the three-point line. That's because a lot of those shots were tough-ass threes. It's not because he wasn't an excellent three-point shooter. It doesn't make him a bad shooter. It just means that was his role in that offense.
Yeah. So
that was a step back three right there.
Yeah. I know, but
thank you, Luka.
Yeah, but that's kind of like, anyways.
Or do I? You're listening. I will say that, like, go ahead.
Yeah, you're listening to the Spoken Truth podcast, episode 5 live edition, as we get into the Dallas Mavericks versus the Phoenix Suns, game 5, 10-5 in favor of Dallas with about 8 minutes and 50 seconds left. What I want to do now is go right into the first live look of this game. And I wanted to ask you, Chaz, what have you seen earlier that got Dallas out to this 5-point lead?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a lot has continued from what we saw with their homestand, that they're creating quality shots. Bullock just got another wide open three in the corner there. He missed it, but, those are the shots that they're getting almost every time down going against this Phoenix Suns defense. It doesn't seem like Phoenix is able to keep up right now. We're talking about when Luka's taking those step back threes, it's not always a good shot, but he has the ability to hit it, as we saw a second ago. I mean, I think that Phoenix, obviously this game is going to go back and forth, but it's not the start that they wanted to get off to. That's for sure.
So who do you have in this game right here?
Me?
Yeah.
I think I still have Phoenix. Coming into the night, I thought, that they were probably going to win this series in 7. I believe coming into the series, I had them in 6. So I still think this is a series that goes 7. Phoenix probably takes care of it at home. But if they lose this game tonight, like you guys said, it's a whole nother conversation, because then they got to go to Dallas and win 2 in a row.
Yeah. So what are your 3 major keys for a Phoenix Suns win tonight?
Still me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first I would say Chris Paul has to get back to normal. I mean, he doesn't have to be as good as he was in some of those games against the Pelicans, but he cannot be as bad as he was in game 3 and game 4. Like I said earlier, it just wasn't himself. Second, I would have to say that DeAndre Ayton, he played okay in those games. I think he averaged like 15-11, 15-10. Like, I mean, he's going to get his numbers because of what he does, because he's around the basket so much, but he just has to have more of an impact on the game. He has to begin deflections. He has to begin out to the perimeter, actually contesting these shots. I know it's hard when he's switching on to smaller guys, or when he's having to go from the paint all the way out to the 3-point line. I know that type of stuff, it just is difficult, but I think he just has to do a little bit better job, to help them win this game. And then, something else that I would say is that they just got to get a little more from those role players. If it's somebody like Cam Johnson, Landry Shamet, if they get a good night from one of those guys, it can really help push them past them tonight.
Gotcha. So, Tony,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, who do you have in this game tonight?
Man. I hate picking these game by game, because it just ends up being a recipe.
I really just want to get your keys to like whoever.
No, you're good. I'll answer the question. I'm just saying this shit ends up being a recipe for me to look dumb as hell in the end, and then everybody's like,
"Oh, you're gonna do that anyways, right?"
That's why I always have to talk my damn thoughts out so people can see that it comes from a place that makes fucking sense. I'm not just picking this shit on the whim.
I think you're going to look that way anyways, Tunde. I think you're going to look that way anyways.
Probably. I'll go with Phoenix because again, it's tough. I think they're playing this game at home. And that honestly, that's about it. You've heard me talk through some of the other rationale. And then the question you asked Chaz was the three.
I want your keys to Dallas winning this game.
You want my keys to Dallas winning?
Yeah, since you're picking Phoenix to win, what is Dallas going to do?
Oh, we sound official as hell. He talked through the Phoenix side. I'm gonna talk to the Dallas side. Look at you hosting the podcast. Pat yourself on the back, man. Good shit. But so, all right. So key one. And this is kind of a game within the game for me. But the Ayton, the Booker Ayton pick and roll is one of the key kind of pet actions in Phoenix's offense. Phoenix and Dallas really struggled to deal with that in games 1 and 2, especially in game 1. Games 3 and especially game 4, they were able to make it work, especially with switches. We saw Maxi Kleber switch out onto Devin Booker several times, and he's a very good defender, moves well for his size. We saw Kleber switch out, move his feet, contest. If they're able to guard that pick and roll combo, which has not really been a combo that people have been able to guard for multiple seasons now, if they're able to withstand some of those possessions, it's going to be huge for them tonight. Point number 2 is to whatever Dorian Finney-Smith is doing to never miss another 3-pointer, have him keep doing that. But for real, point number 2 is going to be just continuing to hit catch and shoots. They're generating clean in rhythm looks you spoke of, Danny. They're generating a lot of those for Reggie Bullock. God, I hate that we know that's how we're supposed to say his name now. They're generating a lot of those shots for Bullock and Maxi Kleber and Finney Smith. They just got to keep hitting them. That part is going to be pretty simple. And then number 3, and honestly, I think this is the most important one here, but how do they get Luka to the end of the game without being exhausted, basically? They did a really good job of that in games 3 and 4 to not have to gas him out and tax him. Like we saw in game 2 where he was defensively getting put in every action. And honestly, a lot of the issues that I saw on the ball were that he seems like he was so exhausted he couldn't even really get in the stance like that and move his feet. So this is where, your Jalen Brunson, your Spencer Dinwiddie, and the ball movement are going to come into play here. You got to find a way to get points and make the offense work to where they're not making Luka do literally everything. I think they found a lot of that in games 3 and 4. They continue to go that way. They're gonna give themselves a very good chance to win this game.
Yeah. So right now you're listening to the Spoken True podcast live, episode 5, and we're covering the Dallas Mavericks versus the Phoenix Suns. Score 15-9 in favor of Dallas with about 6.5 minutes left to go. We've both got you guys' opinion about who do you think will win this game, and also, some keys. Obviously, Tunde picked Phoenix, but I wanted his perspective from the Dallas Mavericks side of things. I'm also going to go with Phoenix to win this game because I believe they have to. Because I believe that if Dallas wins this game, then I think they close the series out in the next 2 games. So with that being said, we're going to tune back into this game in a short while. But over the weekend, technically not the weekend, but over the last couple of days, we've been hearing a lot about, the MVP result coming out, and ESPN's Woj reported just a couple of days ago that Nikola Jokic will win league MVP for the second consecutive year, becoming the 12th player to win back-to-back MVPs. He follows 3 consecutive MVPs. I believe that's one back-to-back: Steph, Giannis, and Jokic. So with that being said,
yeah, I think 4 guys in the last decade have.
Yeah. So with that,
too.
yeah, with LeBron as well. With that being said, what do you guys think now that this award is finalized? We know it's a regular season award. We know, it doesn't count for anything towards the playoffs. But do you believe that the rightful person won the MVP this year? Chaz?
I mean, yeah, I do. I think there was a good argument for Jokic and Embiid as well as Giannis. But I think it was one of those years where, with Jokic having the historical season that he had, as well as missing a few main guys, those last few weeks of the season, he kind of seemed like he became the choice. I'm a little bit disappointed that, we have a back-to-back guy and he's not even in the playoffs, when the award is given out.
That's a problem to me. Like, I hate to cut you off, but that is a huge problem to me. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can do, though, because like you said, it's a regular season award. Do you think they should shift this to something that they count, the first 3 rounds of the playoffs before the finals? Or
no, because
if you're going to do it like this and then not announce it for, several more weeks, then this is really you can't guarantee that the guy that's going to win it is still going to be around.
I wouldn't say change the way that they do it because it is a regular season award. I don't want to say scratch the award completely, but I do think it shrinks the value of being named the most valuable player, because the most valuable player is what it says. He's the MVP. Essentially, I don't know, again, we've had this conversation before. What does most valuable player mean? Is it most valuable to your team? Is it the most valuable player in the league? How do you rationalize what the award means? Because I honestly do not know the definition of most valuable player anymore. Because if you're the most valuable player, your team will still be in the playoffs.
You are fucking that table up.
I don't know how you rationalize, how do you define this award anymore? And it's so frustrating because I don't have any problem with Nikola Jokic winning MVP. I don't have a problem with him winning back-to-back MVPs. That's fine. He put up historic numbers in the regular season, but he's not here. He's not in the regular season. He got bounced out a week and a half when the playoffs started. His team got bounced in 5. So I don't know how you rationalize and how you define what the most valuable player. I know it's a regular season award. I know it's about stats and statistics, and I know it's about narrative, but I just don't know how you give a man back-to-back MVPs when Shaquille O'Neal, the most dominant force in league history, has won. Kobe Bryant.
That's got nothing to do with this, though.
But what I'm saying is these players were dominant in their era. And no one's ever going to mistake Nikola Jokic as being a top 5 player in this league, because he's not. What? He's not.
He's not right now?
No, he's not. It's Steph, LeBron, Giannis, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid. I can keep going. He's not.
I think there's an argument for number 5. I think.
No, I don't.
Nikola Jokic has to be in the conversation for best player in the league for me.
No, he doesn't.
That's where I'm at.
What? Who is he better than?
And that's not me saying. That is not me. To be clear, that is not me saying Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league.
You said conversation. You said he's supposed to be in a conversation as the best player in the league.
It's like a 5-man conversation.
Hold on. Okay, that's very understandable. That we looking at the top 5 players in the league. But sure. Steph, he's not better than Steph. That's 1. He's not better than LeBron. That's 2. He's not better than Kevin Durant. That's 3. He's not better than Giannis. That's 4. If you're going to put my feet to the fire, he's not better than Joel Embiid. That's 5. So we can look at this however we want to. We could slice it and dice it however you want to. You could say this man didn't have his full horses on his team. He didn't have his second and third best, but that's fine. But when you have Kobe Bryant, who was one of the most dominant figures in his era, has won. You have Shaquille O'Neal, who played for well over 2 decades almost, and he has one MVP to show for it. And then you have this guy who
That's got nothing to do with Jokic, though.
but I think it's the narrative of how can this guy has 2 MVPs and these all-time greats don't.
I mean, people
that doesn't sit right with me.
People could have been saying the same thing about Giannis before he kind of elevated himself with the championship, with the run last year. I mean, people were saying, "Oh, he has 2, and other guys only have 1." But I mean, all you can do is look at the one season that just took place and pick an MVP. And I do agree with you that the criteria. It's not clear, that there's different ways to look at it. It's more, the eye of the beholder, however you want to spin your narrative, however your argument looks. Like it's a difficult thing to talk about because there's so many different ways to look at it. But I mean, I feel like Jokic winning back-to-back has nothing to do with Shaq potentially winning one 20 years ago.
It's safe. I think it's not safe to say, but I'm going to assume we're going to be alive for the next 5 years. I'm going to assume all 3 of us are going to be alive.
I hope so.
God, we hope.
Knock on wood.
We'll see. Nikola Jokic is not going to win a title in the next 5 years. He's going to be a back-to-back. He's going to be a back-to-back MVP, and he doesn't have a title. And how long has he been in the league right now? 6-7 years. Yeah. Add 5 more years to that. He's going to be in the league for a decade with no title to show for it, and he's a back-to-back MVP. Steve Nash has 2 MVPs. What does he have to show for it? Steve Nash should not have 2 MVPs. First of all, they robbed Shaq. We're gonna put that.
No, in what?
Not for those MVPs. That wasn't Shaq. That wasn't Shaq at that time.
No, if anything, Kobe got robbed. I feel like the next.
They robbed Shaq and Kobe.
No, you talking about Shaq with his first year with Miami? He shouldn't have won it. He was great. He was great that year, but he's
okay.
I feel like deserved.
We're not gonna do Shaq, but they robbed Kobe.
Phoenix was the best team in the league that year. I think.
They robbed Kobe. They robbed Kobe.
I think Kobe had definitely a better argument that second time. And I agree with you. Jokic might end up being this generation Steve Nash, 2 MVPs, no championships, but that's still an all-time great player.
Hey, Danny, in 2017, when Russell Westbrook won the MVP,
he should have been MVP.
You said what?
The only reason Russell Westbrook won MVP is because of triple doubles. And then, not to make matters worse, the second 2 years after he averaged a triple double, he did it again, and he got no MVP votes. So it's a narrative thing. It's what are you doing at this very moment, and what are you doing that's so great that we're going to give you an MVP for? Russell Westbrook should not have any MVPs, but the fact that he averaged a triple double and the fact that he was doing it on a terrible team. That was the reason he won the MVP.
I just want to make sure we're staying consistent with our logic here. So
I think I am. I think I am.
You are. I think
Russell Westbrook shouldn't be an MVP.
I agree. To be clear, I agree with you. I thought James Harden should have won that award that year. So here's my thing. We can't just brush past the second and third best player on the team weren't their thing. Doesn't matter because it does, and it matters a lot. They won 48 games. They won 48 games, making it work with Aaron Gordon, who I like, but Aaron Gordon as the second best player on the team. Like that, they were gassed. They had nothing left at the end of the season. They very clearly did not have the roster to be competing with the Warriors. I have a very hard time saying that because of that and the fact that Denver won 3 less games than Philadelphia during the regular season, that somehow Nikola Jokic isn't a deserving MVP for this season. He had a great season. I could go into all of it. But he had a great season, was very clearly deserving of the award. He's going to win the award. It is a regular season award. Honestly, if I had my way, we'd award we wouldn't be having this conversation because we would just award a playoff MVP. And then, we'd be able to recognize people's contributions during the playoffs that way. And then we could just go from there, whatever that might mean to people. and like this is where I kind of take a little bit of umbrage with this framing of the conversation as well. If we look at right now who the quote unquote playoff MVP would be, we could honestly probably say it's Jimmy Butler. Do you think Jimmy Butler is the best player in the league, or Jimmy Butler should have been the MVP during the regular season because he literally might be right now might have had a better playoffs than everybody else?
This man did not say Jimmy Butler.
He's been playing better than anybody.
Have you been watching the Miami Heat play basketball?
This man said Jimmy Butler.
Yes, I said Jimmy Butler. I have
no disrespect.
He looks like his 2020 bubble. He's playing great right now. He averaged like 37 in the last 2 games.
No disrespect to Jimmy Butler. This is no knock against Jimmy Butler.
Incoming extreme.
This sounds like a knock.
Yeah.
This is no disrespect to Jimmy Butler. And
like when somebody say no offense.
The number one seeded Miami Heat, but Jimmy, if you're listening, which I know you're not, you're just not that guy, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but hold on. Can I go back to the point? Can we stop acting like Murray and Porter is the second coming? Can we stop acting like these two guys are superstars or something? Can we stop acting like that this team was going to be any better with those two on that team?
I'm about
to leave the fucking show. That's crazy.
Can we stop acting like they were going to beat the Warriors if they had those two? They weren't going to beat the Warriors. Can we stop? They might not go beat the Suns with those two.
But they might not have been. They probably wouldn't have been the 6th seed though.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. 5th seed, 4th seed doesn't matter. Can we stop?
I mean, if they were the 4th seed and they played Utah and they beat Utah in the first round, would you feel okay giving Jokic the MVP?
It's Utah. I mean, we all know how I feel. We all know how I feel about Utah now.
Okay, then let's say they beat Dallas in the first round. I just feel like it's a regular season award, so none of this should even be in the conversation.
That's so offensive, even mentioning Utah. That is just so offensive. Blasphemous.
I just feel like if they had Murray and Porter, I don't think they would have been a 48-win 6th seed. I think they probably would have been like mid-50-win team. You know, maybe they would have been right there with Dallas. I don't think they would have been as good as the Warriors, but they probably don't see Golden State in the first round. I mean, you're acting like Murray and Porter, who are their second and third best.
I know. I mean, these guys are top 40 players in the league, top 35.
That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, but can we stop acting like these guys are like the next big thing? And they were just going to make so much of a difference in them being they will still be at the playoffs right now. I mean, can we stop acting like they were going to make so much of a difference in how the playoffs played out?
So you can't say that.
If they played Utah Jazz, they would have advanced. But if they played anybody else, I feel comfortable saying they would have lost. They would have lost to the Mavericks. They would have lost to Golden State. They would have lost to Phoenix. They would have lost to They would have lost to Memphis. I feel like they would have lost to any other team. They would have lost to any team other than Utah, because Utah is Utah.
I mean, maybe, but they definitely would have been a better regular season team, which is what, you know, we know the award is about. Like, I feel like it would have helped him a lot to have his second and third best. I mean, Porter is even better probably scorer than he is, especially from the perimeter. I mean, those are the type of guys that you send another defensive player towards Jokic, picking you apart. We saw how good Porter was against Portland last year in the playoffs. Like, I mean, those are really good players, and you're acting like they wouldn't make any difference.
Again, I just want to say to Nikola Jokic, I'm not hating. I upgraded you from star to superstar.
That's so. Okay, two things. One, whoever got the one, if you want to just speak that, please, that would be nice. I love Kevin Harlan, but let's maybe not.
It was actually
I don't want him to be the fourth member of our broadcast.
It was actually too loud. I had it on silence at first, and then I actually accidentally hit it, and I forgot.
It's like you're too loud about your hatred of Nikola Jokic. And
no, I just said no. He literally impressed me. He went from a bubbling star. Now he's a superstar. Now
he was already a superstar. You are the last person in the world who is debating the point.
Now
it's
he's
just you. It's
now he's in a conversation for a top 10 player right now. He's in that
Top 10.
conversation now. Yeah, he's in that.
He's been a top 7 player for 2 years at least. At least
he's been a top 10 player for like 4 years. This is
top 10 player for like since 2019.
I don't even want to discuss this. You're the only person who
he's like in that conversation now. Like now I'm getting there with Luka. I'm trying to like nudge him in to that conversation, but I just feel like
been there too.
I feel like people hype him, and people call him a top 5 player, and I'm like, oh man, y'all. Whew.
I mean, I'm not about to do this with you. Not right now.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I digress. We have to get into the Grizzlies and the Warriors.
We just to be clear, besides the point that you're just like wrong as hell about the whole.
Which one?
Can we stop acting like they wouldn't be better if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. were
not that much.
So Jamal Murray with his
he's decent.
So Jamal Murray missed the entire back half of the season, or almost the entire back half of the season with his injury. He missed 34 games. He missed 34 games last year.
Yeah, so
injured, right. The Nuggets ended up being the 3 seed with Jamal Murray missing almost the entire back half of the season.
Okay. So
they were the 6th seed this year.
Uh-huh.
You see where the difference is.
Oh, so they went from 3 to 6. They dropped off. They dropped. Yeah. Okay. I mean,
because it's almost like when you aren't able to run out, a star point guard, it makes a big difference.
I think teams were just bad that year and versus them being good. I just think teams were just not good. I mean,
the year before when they went to the Western Conference Finals.
Sure, NBA teams are bad. That's
where did that get them? When they went to the conference finals, where did it get them?
I'm just saying, I think it's pretty obvious they're a much better team than they have.
I'm just saying, where it get them? I'm just saying, where did it get them?
But I'm not talking about it got them anything. I'm saying they're a beher team when they have their second and third best players.
I never denied that they were a better team. I said, can we stop acting like these?
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You said they wouldn't have made a difference.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying in the grand scheme of things, where you're looking at the totality of the Western Conference, those 2 guys wouldn't have made a difference in the outcome of eventually the Western Conference Finals, the NBA, if they want to make a difference in that sense. So I don't care if they get them additional 10 wins, 15 wins, that's fine. But they're not going to make an outcome and who winning the championship. That's just not happening.
I think you're probably right about that, but go ahead, Tunde.
Those you can't say that because those 10 to 15 wins are the difference between different matchups.
I can't say that. I can't say that there's 5 years of I can say that. Yes. I can say that.
The matchups matter. Like that is
absolutely styles makes fights. Absolutely.
Styles, exactly. Yes. Styles make fights.
Yes. So, but when does that not become an excuse anymore? Why your team is not doing anything? And I get it that they made a Western Conference appearance once in the last decade or so. But
I'm just saying, I feel like, in 2019, they were one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the West. 2020, they were one of the 2 best teams. 2021, 3 or 4 best teams. This year, a slight drop off because they didn't have those guys. That 10-win gap that you're talking about, that's why he won the MVP.
Yeah, yes. And 2 years ago, Utah was the number 1 seed.
I'm not talking about what it gets them. I'm talking about a different team without those guys, and that difference.
I never questioned that.
But that's why he won the MVP. I'm not saying it would have made them a championship contending team. I agree with you. I think with those guys, they still lose in the first round, maybe the second round this year. I'm not trying to say that they're a contending team. I'm trying to say that without those guys, they're a much different team, a much worse team, and that difference is why he won the MVP.
My point is that the playoff picture looks completely different if they have those guys. So I don't think
I think they still go home. It doesn't look completely. They still go home. I mean, at the end of the day, they show up to the playoffs. They play their little 4 or 5 games, however they do it. Then they go home. Quick, simple, and easy. week and a half, 2 weeks. They're going to be, in the playoffs. Hurrah, Denver Nuggets made the playoffs. The fans are going to go crazy and Mile High. Yay, our team is in the playoffs. And then they're going to just go home and, the next week and a half or so. And it probably is going to already end on a home floor anyway. So they're already going to be at home. So they don't have to travel back to wherever, city they were, state or they were in. They're already going to be at home. So, yes, I mean, obviously they make a difference. Were they going to make a difference in this playoffs? I don't think so.
We're talking about the MVP though.
I mean, no, because something was talking about they would have made a difference in this playoffs, and I'm like, no. I mean,
Tunde, how good do you think they are? Like, how good do you see them being the next 2 or 3 years? Thinking that they're fully healthy with those guys.
Provided that they're fully healthy, they probably go back to being
provided
team in the West. They'll be right there with the. They'll be right there with the Clippers, the Warriors, the Suns.
So they're four.
I'm not going to definitively say they'd be the fourth best team there either. Clippers, Warriors, Suns, Grizzlies.
So they're 5.
Be right in the mix with. No, I'm not.
I'm not saying behind all those teams.
I'm not saying they're behind all those teams. I'm saying that those will be the best teams in the conference. I think the Nuggets very well could be, above, say, the Warriors or above the Grizzlies or above even Clippers in the standings.
So man.
I feel like if they stay fully healthy for the next few years, they have a shot at getting back to another conference finals. And I mean, as long as they're doing that, you're in the mix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I won't be surprised if you were so confident to say Denver won't win a championship in 5 years.
100%. You want to bet on it?
Sure.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do that off air. Let's do that.
I do it on there. I don't.
No, we're public people now. We can't do that type of stuff on live.
You can't make that. Is it that Denver wouldn't win a championship or that Jokic won't?
Denver. I mean, I'll go the next decade if you want me to. I said
I'll never be in the I'll never.
I said the next 10 years. Nikola Jokic would not win. Okay, let me spice it up a little bit.
You're gonna say his whole career, aren't you?
He would never win a title his entire career.
Yeah, gladly. I will gladly.
He would never win a championship.
Gladly, I will take that bet.
And I think Chaz, a little part of in his head somewhere, he's like, "Oh man, he might be right. Yeah, he not winning the title."
Well, like I said, he might be the Steve Nash of our generation. It's something. I mean, he's probably not going to be as great as Chris Paul, and I mean, Chris Paul doesn't have one. Like, we've seen guys be at his level and not win championships, so it's very possible. But I mean, I would probably bet on the fact that he does. Just how good of a player I think he is. But there's a very realistic shot.
What planet will it be on at that particular moment? Will it be Earth still, or will it be another planet? I'm just saying.
I don't know. I don't know why you don't think this guy has it. Like, to me, he has pretty much everything you can ask for.
He doesn't have it.
What is it?
You don't know. You just know that the person has it. That's the thing.
So who's an example?
LeBron has it. Like no question about it. LeBron has it. You can't explain it. He has it. Kevin Durant has it. You can't explain it. LeBron Steph Curry has it.
LeBron was questioned at times. Like,
I still think LeBron had it. Like,
I still think but I'm saying, like, if Jokic develops that in a couple years, or if he takes that next step, like, and there's nothing to say that he can't do that.
I'm not. We've been on this man for too long. Okay, he's not worth it.
He's the greatest draft pick in NBA history.
So no, I'm talking about Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, me too.
He was picked
a two-time MVP at the 41st pick. That's probably the best pick you could do.
When he was selected during the NBA draft, they didn't even show. There was a Taco Bell commercial running.
A quesarito commercial.
That's right. They already knew. They already knew. See, the NBA scouts already knew. Moving on to the Warriors and the Grizzlies, that this series has turned, kind of squarely into the Warriors' favor. They took a commanding 3-1 lead. We have a lot going on in this series with the giant injury, with the flagrant fouls, with the technical fouls, with everything going on right now. What do you make of this series, Chas? Real quick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Ja, it's a completely different series. We saw the Warriors really struggle last night and they still eked out a win. I think if there was any shot that the Grizzlies had to win that series, they had to get that game last night. And especially with the news that Ja is doubtful to return. Like you said, I think this series is over. They're probably going to wrap it up in 6. We can talk about what else we've seen from the Warriors in this series, the positives and the negatives. But, just a quick takeaway from last night, it definitely seems like this series is over.
Yeah. Yeah, we got about 15 minutes left in the show. So we're going to spend a little time talking about this and getting our last live look at this game right now. But right now, Tunde.
Yeah, fuck. I was about to say, fuck me.
No, absolutely. So, Tunde, what is your impression right now that this series has shifted 3-1 into Golden State favor? With the Ja injury, with the technical fouls, with the flagrants, we're going to get into in a little minute. What is your takeaway from this series real quick?
Disagree with the guy one too many times about Nikola Jokic and he cut your speaking time. Jeez. So my takeaway, there's several. You guys know that I try to be measured and not really one for hyperbole. But I want that to be because when I say something big and grand, I want that to carry some weight behind it. Dillon Brooks' performance yesterday is one of the most he's with us performances I've ever seen in a playoff game. That shit was unbelievable. It's not even like I honestly I don't care that he was like 3 for 17. I don't even
3 for 19.
3 for 19. People miss shots. That's whatever. He was awful on the defensive end, especially off the ball. Just consistently losing people, getting cooked. Bad leverage, out of position, and then you go 3 for 19. That shit is crazy. That's where that was honestly my first takeaway. If Dillon Brooks gives them anything last night, they win that game. But he might as well have had a Warriors jersey on the way he played. That was crazy.
So I mean, I honestly looking at that game last night. Even with the way that the Warriors played that game, I said the Warriors are going to win this game. I said that at the end of the first quarter. They were missing shot. Clay, brother. Please stop shooting, just jacking stuff up. Please, I'm begging. Stop just taking fall away straight up threes. No rhythm, no off the dribble, no set picks, nothing. You just get the ball and just jacking up shots. Please stop doing that. I mean, you're doing a disservice to your team. There's no ball movement. Everyone was off. Curry, Poole, Lee, Kuminga, Clay, the entire Golden State Warriors couldn't buy a shot. Couldn't buy a three. They ended up 3 for 19 from 3-point range at the end of the third quarter. I mean, just abysmal. I've never seen that team struggle to shoot the way that they shot last night. And I'm watching the game, and they're down 10. And I'm like, they don't deserve it, but the Warriors are going to win this game. Because Grizzlies kept it too close. Grizzlies couldn't buy a bucket. The Grizzlies were just shooting just as bad as the Warriors. And I'm like, if they keep it close, the championship DNA and the championship mentality of the Warriors, they're going to show you what the Timberwolves do not have. And they're going to close this game out. And they won the game when they shouldn't have. I literally text like 6 different people. I would text at the same time, all these people talking about this game. And I text the chat and I'm like, they don't deserve to win this game, but they're going to win because of championship experience. And that was the series. I believe this series was lost in game 1. I believe this series shifted after game 1 because Memphis should have won game 1. The fact that they didn't win game 1, it just come all back full circle because this series to me ended game 1.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and then as well as the injury, that kind of throws out a chance to come back. But, from what I saw last night, I agree with what you guys are saying. For them to start 0-16 from 3, and I think they were like 2 of 20 at the half, their lowest scoring half in a long time. They scored more in the
40.
Yeah, 38, I think it was, right?
38, yeah.
Yeah, they scored 39 in the
First
fourth
time since
quarter alone.
2016, game 5 of 2016 finals.
Yeah, so I mean, to shake off that type of start, I think the backcourt, Curry, Thompson, and Poole were like 1 of 17 to start. And then obviously we saw Curry get going 18 in the fourth quarter. He was huge. I thought the Grizzlies did a lot of good things to kind of make it more of a physical game, to kind of muck it up. Steven Adams was playing really well. Jaren Jackson Jr. was getting a lot of good looks in the paint. But like you said, in those last several minutes of the game, the Warriors were getting quality shots with Curry, and on the other end, it was Dylan Brooks forcing shots. I mean, he was 2 of 9 from 3, and you guys talked about how bad he was, shooting from the field. But that 3-pointer in the last minute was just a terrible shot. I mean, there was a lot of other options that they could have gone with, and that was probably their last shot to win it.
But real quick, Tony, before you go, I want to know the answer to this. I really want to know. The Grizzlies were the number 1 rebounding team in the entire NBA this season.
Yep. Out rebounded all 4 games.
How are you getting out rebounded by the smallest team left in the NBA playoffs?
It's a conscious decision from a lineup perspective because Steven Adams is not getting minutes. And that's
Is that a styles thing? Is that a styles thing?
Yeah. I think they're trading off the rebounding advantage that they would have playing with some of the rotation they went with in the regular season. Generally speaking, they're trading that off with basically wanting to be able to guard the Warriors. Mm-hmm. I don't really think it's a bad bet. I don't even think it's going poorly. It's been like late game execution that have lost them a few games. I mean, it's a play here in game 1. It's a play here in game 1. A Dylan Brooks here in game 4.
The only reason I will rebuke that point is because it's the same thing I've been saying all season long, is that the Warriors take you away from your strength. Rebounding and paint presence is the Grizzlies' strength, and they're adjusting to the Warriors. And I'm like, the Warriors, the only team that I know in the playoffs right now, will force you to play their style and brand of basketball. If they go small, you're going to go small. If you probably have 3 guards on the court, they're going to probably have 3 guards on the court. They force you to play their style of basketball. And I don't agree with you. I don't believe that they should try to play the Warriors game. I feel like the Grizzlies need to play Grizzlies basketball and play the big guys and out rebound them and kill them in the paint.
I don't even think you're completely wrong. I think that there's going to be some of that. I think Steven Adams probably does need to play more. I think they can find some more minutes for him. Just figure it out, whether it's that he guards Draymond or Kevon Looney, or whether even it's just that he's playing drop coverage and they make the guards stay on the hip of whoever it is that's on there, whether that's Steph or whatever. I think they could figure something out. To be clear, the drop coverage thing really wouldn't be what I do. Because the margin for error is very narrow in that scenario. But I think they can figure something out to where Steven Adams gets some more minutes. But it's hard for me to look.
I mean, this series is over. I don't know how far you think it's going, but it's over tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Woo-wee. I mean, I don't think the Warriors, to be clear, I think we're all in agreement that the Warriors are going to win the series. I think that Memphis is still a very good basketball team with a lot of good players. We've been over this and how deep I think they are. I think they were able to get into the paint and score a lot last night. I think, again, it really just has to be – it's the details. It's the little details. So when, again, I hate that I'm kind of singling out one guy, but when you have a guy like Dylan Brooks who is costing you so many points on both ends of the floor, Like that's not something you can have. And personally for me, this is where like the depth comes into play. I think they gotta and like in that situation, I feel like we've got to have a shorter leash. This is why we are like what they're as deep as they are at the guard and the wing spots. You know, that might mean more minutes for DeAnthony Melton. It might mean more minutes for Kyle Anderson. That might mean more minutes. You know, maybe you play Xavier Tillman a little bit, and then Brandon Clark slides down the lineup. Like you just can't have what Dylan Brooks is doing. You just can't.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on from that real quickly. We're gonna bring you the final live look of this game here. Obviously, the game is still going on with another half to go, but we're going to be sending it off here in a couple more minutes. I wanted to ask you, Chaz, do you think that Dylan Brooks play was dirty?
Yeah, I do. And this is what I want to talk to you guys about too, because I mean, obviously we heard what Steve Kerr was saying and everything after the game that he thought it was, it broke the code, and then Ja responded, after Poole's reach in, which I didn't think that Poole one was a dirty play. Brooks coming from behind him, I definitely think is much more. That's probably something that you just got to give up the layup at that point when you're that far back. But what I did want to ask you guys is, if you saw in the play, and I believe it was game 3, when Giannis tried to track down Tatum, do you guys think that was also a dirty play? Because that was a similar type of thing where, he's coming from way far back. He is attacking the ball, but it's also a play that is endangering the offensive player, like pretty obviously.
So personally, I think as long as you're going for the ball, contact that happens can be excused when you're just playing hard. You're going for the ball, you're just trying to make a play. It happens. The Dylan Brooks thing, if you did that at the park, you would get your ass beat for that. Like you would start a brawl. They probably should have started a brawl anyway. Like that shit is crazy. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You just can't do that.
The swipe to the head.
Yeah, I think the way
super dirty.
I think the way that the play developed, it went from, and I know Dylan Brooks was talking about that. Gary Payton switched his position and the way that he was going. So he ended up hitting him in his head, and the ball was there. And I believe Gary tried to switch the ball in a direction of basically opposite to avoid the block. Either way it went, that would have ended up in contact. It's no matter how Dylan Brooks want to slice it. The way that he was going, his momentum would have hit him either way. So it doesn't matter if he hit the ball or his head, because he would have ended up hitting his head anyways, the way that the play was developing. Because the way that Gary Payton was going, his body was contorted to the left while all his pressure going towards the basket to the right side. So either way it went, he would have failed. Now, could Gary Payton could have braced his fall better? I mean, I don't know about everyone, but if I'm falling, it's not the smartest thing to do, but I'm always trying to brace for impact. I'm not going to try to fall on my backside or my stomach or on. I'm trying to brace for impact, so I'm going to use my hands. It's just a natural instinct. So for people to say like he didn't brace for the fall, it shouldn't have been a fall to begin with, because if he didn't do the play, he would have never failed. That's the whole part where I'm not getting that people saying he should have braced for impact. If Gary Payton wasn't hit in the head, he would have never failed. Yeah, I don't know where people not getting that.
I don't think you can ever criticize how somebody falls if they get hit in the head. Like that throws off your balance completely. And Gary Payton, like, I don't think Dylan Brooks was trying to injure him or anything.
I don't think he wasn't. I don't think he's a dirty player.
Yeah, and I
think it was a dirty play, though.
And I think he did take a swipe at the ball, but that still doesn't make it not a dirty play to me.
Yeah. So while we're on that subject, as I said, there's been a lot going on in this series. Draymond Green was ejected. I believe it was game 2?
One.
It was game 1. Yeah, it was game 1, because that was the game I was talking about earlier. It was game 1. Do you think that deserved a suspension, real quick, Chas?
Well, do I think it deserved a flagrant 2?
A suspension and a flagrant 2, yes. Or was a
Uh,
flagrant 2 enough?
yeah, I think the flagrant 2 was enough. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I didn't. I mean, I was more closer to it being a. We're talking about Draymond, right? I thought that was
Yes.
more of a flagrant 1 than it would be a suspension.
Okay.
I get why they called it a flagrant 2 because not only did he pull him down, but he also got him in the face before that. So I understand it. But definitely think that it shouldn't deserve a suspension.
Sunday.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Chaz. It's very interesting because I think we all saw a lot of people were like so up in arms that Draymond got ejected from the game, and I get that it's like nobody wants to see one of the teams in the game not be at full strength because of something like that. But he very clearly hits him in the face with the windup, and then pulls him down out of the sky without there being any attempt to make a play on the ball, which is dangerous. And clearly there was no ill intent there because he tried to hold him up before he hit the ground. But like, I think if it was me, I probably would have called it a flagrant 1 too. But like, I totally understand why he was ejected. I mean,
yeah, I'm more towards a flagrant 2 foul than I am a technical foul. Like, a flagrant 1. Did you say a technical foul or a flagrant 1, Chaz?
I said it was closer to a flagrant 1 than it was a suspension to me, but I think he was probably right.
Yeah, so I was in favor of him getting kicked out of that game, and as I said previously, I think it was the grab that really led to him, not being able to, embrace himself in that manner, in that space. But Tunde, despite all that, they wasn't able to win game 1. And that to me is kind of where the series shifted. Because if you're Memphis, you have to find a way to win that game. And we're going to touch more on this series in a little bit. But right now I want to take our final look into this Dallas and Phoenix game, with Phoenix actually taking the lead in the last couple of minutes, 47-45, with about a minute and some change left. What do you think, Chas, real quick, Phoenix has to do to keep this momentum?
Yeah, I thought the second quarter they definitely started playing a lot better. Booker, he's up to 16 points. He's really getting into that mid-range. It seems like Dallas is kind of chasing them off the three-point line when they're driving and kicking. And he and Mikal Bridges got a couple pretty good looks in the mid-range that knocked him down. It kind of helped him take the lead these last few minutes. But this looks like one that's probably going to come down to the wire.
Tony?
Yeah, I think Phoenix is doing a great job of, we talk about this being a make or miss league. Devin Booker is making tough shots. And that's the difference. He's come out here and, really effective from the mid-range. God damn, that was a crazy foul. He's come out here being aggressive from the mid-range, especially some really, really tough makes. That's the slight difference in this game is Devin Booker's performance.
See, this is my problem with Book. From strictly this series alone, Chris Paul should no longer. This team should not go as far as Chris Paul go anymore. I think the fact that Chris Paul is still the vocal point, not obviously he's a leader, but this team goes as far as Chris Paul goes. And to me, Devin Booker, who's supposed to be your next up-and-coming superstar, he's supposed to be able to take over him and Ayton. It's time for them to take the next step and to be that duo, that tandem that's going to get Phoenix to their first championship. Like, to Chris Paul to his first championship, not Phoenix first championship of franchise, but in a recent history. He has to be able to take over that game, this team in situations. Right now, he's not doing that. He's playing great today. He's had a great game so far, but he's yet to take that leap that Jason Tatum has taken already. I don't see him in that light yet. I still view him in that same category as Donovan Mitchell. They just haven't. They're good. They're just not on that next level yet. And for Phoenix to win the championship, I think he has to be.
I mean, he's better than Donovan Mitchell, right? Like, I think we can all...
he's a little higher than Mitchell, but I think they're on the same tier.
Fair enough.
Chas.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that, he probably does need to be that number one focal point for them to win a championship, the first one in franchise history. That would be huge. But as we know, Chris Paul also needs to be playing at an extremely high level. I don't know who's more important. I think in the last few minutes, it's usually Chris Paul. But the first three quarters, it's more Devin Booker is the one that gets a lot of the offense going. And, you need him to be a consistent scorer, throughout the game. And then Paul kind of does his thing late. But, I don't know, like, I think this team has a chance to win it. I don't know if Devin Booker is going to be the reason, they do or don't. I feel like it needs to be a full team effort.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're kind of ending our podcast here for this evening, there's one final topic that we kind of have to address and talk about real quick. So switching back to the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry was just amazing in the fourth quarter, scoring 18 points, leading that team to that victory. How important was that for Steph to do, knowing the noise that people still make about him not being able to close, not being able to show up in big situations? How was that? How does that affect the way that some people can change their mindset of viewing him when it comes to his team wasn't playing great? The Warriors shouldn't have won that game. It was kind of his will that drove them to that victory.
I mean, if you're still questioning Steph Curry's ability to close a game, then I feel like that performance probably wasn't going to push you over the top. With that said, it was something that's special, but for him, it's something that he does, pretty common. And if his other, Poole, Klay Thompson, those guys aren't shooting well, Curry knows that he can do that. He can take over. Mm-hmm. It's just he doesn't always have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, if you're still if you're still questioning in the year of our Lord and Savior, 2022, if Steph can lead a team or close out games, you got to make your peace with that. So, that's all.
Yeah, for me, this year has been so weird because he had a month and a half stretch of just not shooting, his shooting like Steph Curry can shoot. But it seemed like that is continuing. Are we seeing a difference in the way that he's shooting? Is it just the shots being short? Is it fatigue? Is it him putting on muscle? What can it be for the constant struggle? Obviously, he's still shooting at an elite level compared to others, but to his standard, it hasn't been to that, that standard this year. Are you seeing anything different, Chaz, in the way that he's shooting? Is it the putting on the 10 pounds of muscle? What can it be?
I don't know. I know there's been a few different discussion points, that you've mentioned that a lot of people have been talking about, but I don't know. Like, it's not something that I'm really worried about. Like, the 6-week slump, it was kind of concerning because the team was struggling, at times during that as well. But I mean, unless it happens in a finals game or unless it happens, in a game that the Warriors are eliminated from the playoffs, then it's not really something that I feel like they should be concerned about. Because like you're saying, he's still doing it at an elite level, even if there is a slight drop off from years past.
It's his level compared to his level. He's still shooting great at the level that everyone else is at. They're just comparing him to his standards. Tunde?
I mean, I think sometimes we talk about it being a make or miss league. I think sometimes you miss shots. He takes a decent amount of tough ones. I think sometimes you miss, and that's it. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones last night that were wide open and he was still missing them, we've seen a couple of those. He had one in game 1, too, that I thought, last few minutes he was wide open. It could have put him in the lead, I believe. So there have been times where it's like, this is a shot that I expect Curry to make and he misses. But I mean, that happens. And I mean, you're still confident in him taking that shot every single time.
Quick yes or no question. Is it cause for concern that Jordan Poole has been struggling recently for the Warriors?
Go ahead, Tunde.
No.
No.
I would say slightly. I think they need him. I think they need him to be, probably the third or fourth best player on the team to win a championship. And these last few games, I don't think he's been quite at that level.
I think he needs to be the second best player for them to win a championship.
You think he needs to play better than Draymond?
I think he needs to play better than Clay. The thing is, I don't view. I mean, Draymond, I just view him differently. Like,
you're not
obviously
in that.
No, because it's no. I'm just going to say right now, it's no slight to Draymond. Like, Draymond is Draymond.
He's just a different type of player.
Yeah, I don't view him, and I don't necessarily rank him. I just know Draymond is going to do Draymond. I think everyone knows Draymond, the Golden State Warriors. He's the engine. He keeps it going. He makes all the plays and all the decisions. So I really don't rank him into where does he rank as the best player. I just put him in a separate category and say Draymond gonna do Draymond stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really how I look at it. So I think Poole needs to be their second best player. And Clay needs to be their third best player in order for them to win the championship. I think Clay is still a year away, as I think Chaz beat Kenny to the board. Man, Kenny's legs are shot.
Wow.
Man, I think he beat him to the board.
We got to get a second look.
I think he beat him to the board. But, oh, man, I forgot what I was saying. But Kenny, he's so funny, man. But I think Clay is still a year out to me. I still think he can contribute to this year. And he's still a threat. You're not going to leave him open. I just think next year he's going to have the speed back. He's going to, continue to work on that jump shot. The jump shot is not going to go anywhere, but he's going to get better looks. His feet is going to be under him. I think the fact that they're going back to back, I mean, not back to back, but they're playing every other game or every 2 or 3 days. He's still trying to catch up on his rest and getting back in shape to me. So I think next year will be the best we see of this iteration of Klay Thompson. With that,
well, I will say real quick that I think you're right about that, and I think that heightens the importance of Poole and Wiggins. Like,
yes,
if Klay isn't at that same level where he isn't your second best player, which he's not anymore. I mean, it's probably Draymond and Wiggins and Poole, and then probably Klay, and he can be that some nights. But he's obviously not the same player right now. So I really do think Poole and Wiggins have to play at a high level.
I think the fact that they have enough pieces. Okay, who won? I can't tell who won that one. I think Charles won that one. Nah, I think Kenny won it.
I think Kenny barely got him.
Kenny got him.
I don't know. That's tight.
Yeah, but I think Klay Thompson, he's just another year out, and I still think they can win a championship without him being the second best player, because right now I don't think he is. But we're going to discuss all of the remaining of this series playoffs. I think the next time we be back, potentially that Golden State series will be over. Potentially, Memphis can force it to 6 or 7 games. So when we see you guys again, we will have a lot more to discuss on all of these series. But for right now, is there anything else that any of you guys would like to say?
No, I think I'm all set.
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to Spoken Truth Live Episode 5. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube and our Spotify accounts. All you gotta do is type in Spoken Truth in the search bar. You can find me on Twitter at Danny Murphy Jr. 1.
You can find me on Twitter at Chaz_post23.
And you can find me on Twitter at KingTuner25.
And Nikola Jokic, guys, he is now a superstar. Thank you, guys.
Oh, now?
He's a